So, as you can see probably out your window, it is a somewhat gloomy afternoon on Monday, May 11th, 2020. Unfortunately, there are currently no live sports going on because coronavirus decided to come in and go, nah, I'm going to put a hold on things. But that doesn't mean that we should just stop talking about sports, whether it's past or present. There's lots of things we can talk about. For example, have you thought about this? The Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, right? But what jerseys were they wearing? Their home jerseys. However, a majority of the teams who have gone on to win the Super Bowl were not wearing their home jerseys. They were actually wearing their white jerseys. That's right, their white jerseys. Let me go through them. So like I said, in Super Bowl 54, the Chiefs were wearing their home jerseys. Their home red jerseys, to be more specific. But the Patriots, when they won Super Bowl 53, they were wearing their away jerseys. Super Bowl 52, another exception to the rule, because the Eagles were wearing their home jerseys. Super Bowl 51, the Patriots were wearing their away jerseys. Super Bowl 50, the Broncos were wearing their away jerseys. Super Bowl 49, the Patriots were wearing their away jerseys. If only the Seahawks had run the ball from the 1-yard line, they could have taken down the Empire. But I have my explanation for that. I believe Seattle had just run the ball to get down to the 1-yard line, so they were expecting New England to be in a run defense, so they said, okay, let's try and throw them off by running a pass play. And I bet 9 times out of 10, that play actually works. It was just that one time Malcolm Butler was in the right place at the right time. Now, I've also heard the explanation that Pete Carroll wanted Russell Wilson to be Super Bowl MVP and not Marshawn Lynch. I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway, as we keep going down the line, Super Bowl 48, Seattle was wearing their away jerseys as they completely shredded the Denver Broncos 43-8. Super Bowl 47, also known as the blackout game. The Ravens were wearing their away jerseys. Super Bowl 46, Giants Patriots round 2. The Giants, the Giants were wearing their away jerseys. Super Bowl 45, another exception to the rule, because when the Packers beat the Steelers at AT&T Stadium, aka Jerry's World, the Packers were wearing their home jerseys. Super Bowl 44, the Saints defeated the Colts, and the Saints were wearing what? Their away jerseys. Super Bowl 43, Steelers defeat the Cardinals. Steelers were wearing their away jerseys. Super Bowl 42, also known most famously for the helmet catch. The Giants were wearing their away jerseys. You know, that was the season where the Giants prevented the New England Patriots from joining the 72 Miami Dolphins. May Don Shula rest in peace. Super Bowl 41, the Colts defeated the Chicago Bears, and the Colts were wearing their road jerseys. Super Bowl 40, Steelers defeat the Seattle Seahawks, and the Steelers were wearing their away jerseys. Super Bowl 39, Patriots defeat the Eagles, but the Patriots were wearing their away jerseys. Super Bowl 38, another exception to the rule, because the Patriots were wearing their home jerseys and the Panthers were wearing their the Patriots were wearing their home jerseys and the Panthers were wearing their road jerseys, even though Carolina was the home team. Some of the other teams I mentioned also wore their white jerseys despite being the home team. Anyway, the Patriots won that game in their home jerseys. Super Bowl 37, Buccaneers defeat the Raiders, and the Buccaneers were wearing their home jerseys. So, you see a pattern. Most of the teams who have won the Super Bowl were not wearing their home jerseys. They were wearing their white jerseys. Now, I think I've talked about this before on various times, and it could be something that's just as simple as, well, the team in white jerseys was just the better team. But for it to happen that often, to me, there's got to be something more to it than simply, oh, the team wearing the white jerseys was just better. Yeah, that could be an explanation, and it's valid, so I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that explanation, but it just doesn't seem like that's the whole thing. I feel like there's more to it. Like, maybe wearing white jerseys is a superstition that if we're the team wearing the white jerseys, we're going to win the Super Bowl. Maybe there's that type of superstition. Thanks, Molly. I miss you too. But I don't know. It just seems like there's something more to wearing white jerseys in the Super Bowl than simply saying, oh, the team in white was better. It doesn't happen that often. It really doesn't. It doesn't happen as often as I mentioned for it to simply be, oh, the team in white was just better. No, for me that doesn't work. Yes, it's an acceptable response, as I said, but to me that just doesn't seem like it's the whole shebang, if you will. I don't know. Maybe I'm making a big deal out of nothing. Maybe I'm trying to invest time in something that isn't really there. But to me, like I said, for teams to win the Super Bowl wearing their white jerseys as often as they have, there's got to be something more than, to me, there's got to be something more than just, oh, the team in white was just better. But anyway, another thing. Let's get in the time machine, fictitiously, alright? Pretend we're back in the year 2016, alright? So, what happened in 2016? Well, Cleveland won a bunch of championships, right? Now, when I ask the question, brought home the first championship in the year 2016, I guarantee most of you are going to say the Cleveland Cavaliers, who came back from a 3-1 deficit to beat the Golden State Warriors, were the first team to bring a championship back to Cleveland. Thank you for that, Molly. I did just graduate from Notre Dame College. Just wanted to point that out. But, like I said, when you think of the year 2016 and championships in the city of Cleveland, you're obviously going to say, oh, the Cavaliers brought home the first championship to Cleveland in 52 years. I'm here to tell you, no, you are wrong for saying that. Wrong, sir, wrong. That's a reference to Willy Wonka. I hope you get it. For those of you who don't know, the current UFC heavyweight champion, Stipe Miocic, trains here in Cleveland. Specifically, out in Strongsville at a gym called, coincidentally, Strong Style Gym. Although he's currently in a big dispute with the UFC, that's I'll get to that, Molly. Don't spoil it. I'll get to it. I'll get to that amazing fact that you just pointed out. I'll get to that. But right now, the current UFC heavyweight champion, Stipe Miocic, is in a bit of a dispute with the UFC because he can't even train in his own gym, strong style gym. But the UFC is saying, you need to defend your belt against Daniel Cormier. You know, the guy he defeated at UFC 241 in a rematch of their first fight at UFC 226. Anyway, go back to UFC 198. Way back in 2016. He's fighting, Stipe Miocic is in Curitiba, Brazil, fighting Fabrizio Verdum for the UFC heavyweight belt. And he goes on to win it because what happened is Verdum starts coming forward at Stipe. And Verdum is throwing various punches at Miocic. So what Stipe does is he parries one of the punches to the side and lands a short punch like this to the side of Verdum's head. And it knocked out Verdum, and Stipe won the UFC heavyweight belt, thus bringing the first championship back to Cleveland. That's right. The Cavaliers did not bring the first championship back to Cleveland. Stipe Miocic did. I am here to tell you that right now. Contrary to popular belief, the Cavaliers did not bring the first, were not the first champion in Cleveland in 2016. It was Stipe Miocic, and I will stand by that statement until the day I die. I'm sorry, but you cannot convince me otherwise. Yes, I know that the UFC is not at the level necessarily that the NBA is, but why does that matter? It shouldn't. It shouldn't. Stipe's not as recognizable as LeBron James or Kyrie Irving or Kevin Love, but why does that matter? It shouldn't. It really shouldn't. And then the second championship was brought to Cleveland by the Lake Erie Monsters, who are the affiliate of the Columbus Blue Jackets. They swept the Hershey Bears, the affiliate of the Washington Capitals. And brought home the Calder Cup. Then the Cavaliers won the championship in 2016, coming back from a 3-1 deficit, of which I'm still mad at the NBA because they decided to take down their content from iTunes, and so I can no longer go on to the iTunes store and purchase the 2016 NBA playoffs. And the reason I like to do this is because it's not because I thought I need to be prepared for a pandemic like this, because honestly, who would have thought we would be in a pandemic like this? Not me. Raise your hand if you thought we were going to eventually end up in a pandemic like this. Raise your hand. Or send me like a thumbs up emoji. I'd be surprised if I get any. But I like to go back and watch old games, whether it's playoffs or championship rounds or games of the year, whatever. I don't know about you, but I'm one of those fans, like I just said, that likes to go back and watch old games. And I love going back and watching the 2016 NBA Finals, obviously, because the Cavaliers came back from a 3-1 deficit to win the championship. But because the NBA took down their content from iTunes, I can't go on and watch the full book of how it happened. From round 1, game 1 of the Cavaliers playoff series against the Detroit Pistons to round 2, game 2 of the Cavaliers playoff series against the Hawks when they broke the playoff record for the most three-pointers made, to various other games and series, like the 2016 Western Conference Finals between the Thunder and the Warriors, when Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook choked, relinquished a 3-1 lead to the Golden State Warriors, and that caused Kevin Durant to be a little wussy and go to Golden State, which I will never forgive him for. But although, interestingly, when Durant went to the Warriors, it ruined the NBA Finals, but somehow made the NBA Christmas Day games between the Cavaliers and Warriors better. I don't know how that happened, but somehow it did. I wish I could give you an explanation for that, but I can't. Anyway, so, Molly Avery, you mentioned this earlier. Also in 2016, the Indians had a 3-1 series lead in the World Series against the Chicago Cubs. Interestingly, Game 1 of the 2016 World Series was the same night as the Cavaliers' banner raising. So, what many fans did was they bought tickets to both games, and instead of staying for the entire Cavaliers game against the New York Knicks, they only stayed for the banner raising and then went over to Progressive Field for Game 1 of the World Series. Now, I'm not like that. I'm a diehard Cavaliers fan. So, my dad, Daniel Unger, and I went to that Cavs game, and we decided to stay for the whole game. Now, I couldn't have gone to the World Series because the World Series was always played at night, and night games at Progressive Field and me don't get along because of the usage of fireworks at Progressive Field. Afternoon games, I'm doing better with, but I can't do nighttime games for the Indians right now at Progressive Field. I just can't. If I was able to get tickets for the World Series in Chicago, I might have at Wrigley Field. Specifically Game 5, because the Cubs won that game. I wouldn't have wanted to go to Games 3 or 4 because the Indians won, and I was rooting for the Cubs in 2016. The Cubs are my favorite team by far. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. I've been a Cubs fan, ever since I can remember. Although, since I live in Cleveland, I've never had the opportunity to go to a Cubs game at Wrigley Field. I've seen Wrigley Field from the outside, but I've never sat in the seats at Wrigley Field and watched the Cubs play a baseball game. That's one of those items that's like at the top of the bucket list for me. And then, of course, in 2016, we had the Atlanta Falcons and the whole 28-3. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say 28-3, you've obviously been living under a rock. So, yeah. So, I hope you know what I'm talking about when I say 28-3. I really hope you do. Yeah, I know this whole thing's just kind of become a tangent for me, but whatever. You know, if Kyle Shanahan hadn't been so stupid to keep passing the ball in the third quarter and gone, oh, I'm up 28-3. Maybe if I run the ball, I can take time off the clock and prevent Tom Brady from coming back on the field. Maybe if he had been smart enough to think of that, he wouldn't have to deal with the 28-3 jokes, nor with the Falcons. Plus, all they had to do, was kick a field goal. Late in the third quarter, and they would have gone up, I believe it was 31-9, which pretty much would have put the game, which might have put the game out of reach, I should say. Because you never know with Tom Brady. But when it comes to Super Bowl champions, because my friend and I have been having an argument about this. Are you part of the championship class for the year the Super Bowl happens? Or are you part of the championship class for the year the season started? Like, look at the Denver Broncos. They won Super Bowl 50. So, Super Bowl 50 took place in 2016. But the season started in 2015. So, are they the 2015 Denver Broncos? Or are they the 2016 Denver Broncos? On the championship film trailer, anyway, they're called the 2015 Denver Broncos. But I've also seen, like, various sources on the internet and all that, which categorizes them in the 2016 champions. So who knows? The only team who did not blow a lead in 2016 was the Pittsburgh Penguins in the Stanley Cup Final. Did you know that? I bet you didn't, because I bet most of you don't follow hockey, which is a mistake, because hockey is by far the best sport, by far. Which is recent for me, because for a while, I can comfortably say, let me rephrase that. For a while, I could comfortably say that basketball and the NBA were my favorite sports. But as I've gotten older and I've watched more and more hockey, I've actually turned around on that one. I've almost done a 360. Because the NHL and hockey have totally taken over the number one spot. If you haven't been to a hockey game, you've gotta go. It's so much fun. And the unpredictability of the game itself is crazy. All you see are guys just skating around on the ice, passing the puck back and forth, back and forth. You don't know when a breakaway is going to happen. You don't know when an amazing save is going to happen. You don't know when an amazing goal is going to happen. You don't know if you're going to see a shootout. You don't know if you're going to see a game filled with like 200 penalty minutes. You could see a game that somehow ends up 10-0. You can ask the Montreal Canadiens about that one. You could see a game that ends in overtime, like 1-0. You could see a game that ends 2-1. Yeah, the possibilities of how a game goes in hockey are just crazy. And hold on. Sorry about that. But yeah, hockey is by far taken the number one spot for me. So I'm a huge Columbus Blue Jackets fan. I'm a huge St. Louis Blues fan. So you can bet I was happy about the result of the Stanley Cup champions, or the Stanley Cup final last year, because now I don't have to hear about Bobby Orr and 1970 anymore. I don't have to hear about that. Plus I hate the Boston Bruins, because, especially after last season, because the Columbus Blue Jackets, going into last season, had never made it to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. In 2009, when they were in the Western Conference, they were eliminated by the Detroit Red Wings. In 2014, which was when they were in the Eastern Conference, they were eliminated by the Pittsburgh Penguins. Then, in 2017, they were once again eliminated by the Pittsburgh Penguins. And in 2018, they were up 2-0 against the Washington Capitals. and then they lost the series. And then in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs this season, the Blue Jackets were up against the top team in all of the NHL, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Most people thought the Lightning were going to just roll over the Blue Jackets. And it looked that way after the first period, because I believe the Lightning were up 3-0. But I'm sure Lightning fans don't want to hear about this, but after the first period, Tampa Bay just disappeared because Columbus came rolling back. They won Game 1. They blew out the Lightning in Game 2. And then when the scene shifted to Columbus for Games 3 and 4, well, the Blue Jackets won those games too. So not only did they move on to the second round for the first time in franchise history, but they swept the Tampa Bay Lightning, the President's Trophy winner, a team that set up many different records. Like one of those records I think was the most points ever in an NHL season. Had various award winners. And Columbus said, yeah, we don't care. So we go into the second round against the Bruins, and we won Game 2. And we won Game 3. So we were up 2-1, meaning Game 4 was a real must-win for us, because it would have put a tremendous amount of pressure on the Bruins going back to Boston down 3-1. However, we unfortunately lost Game 4, and then we lost Game 5, and then we lost Game 6 in Columbus. And when the Blue Jackets lost Game 6, meaning they were eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs, I'm not afraid to admit this. I started crying because I'm a passionate Columbus Blue Jackets fan, and they had never made it to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I thought that if we got past the Bruins, we could potentially win the Stanley Cup. I really did. And I was just so devastated that the journey had to end, because I knew we weren't going to be able to keep Matt Duchene, Artemi Panarin, Sergei Bobrovsky, Dzingel. I knew we weren't going to be able to keep all those guys. And that was our best chance to make a deep run in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and then it was just over. So, like I said earlier, I like to go back and purchase old games on iTunes. I'm thinking about buying all of the 2019 Stanley Cup playoffs. However, they only have elimination games on there. So if I buy the full season, that would mean I would be buying Game 6 of the Blue Jackets Bruins series. So I don't know what to do. I'm leaning towards just buying select games from that playoffs, from the 2019 Stanley Cup playoffs, and never purchasing the round 2 Game 6, because I don't want to relive that sadness again. Yeah. So I know I've gone on a bit of a tangent, but you guys seem to be enjoying it here on Facebook Live. I kind of wanted to try something different instead of doing my usual YouTube live stream or doing my usual YouTube video. Wanted to try Facebook Live, see how I like that. Yeah. So, I kind of wish I had been recording this on Zoom as well, but that's okay. I'll learn for next time. But until next time, this is Unger to the Max. That's my YouTube channel name. Signing off.